My friends, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell. And if you think you're already subscribed, please check to make sure YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you without your permission. It happens every day. And if you really like what you see, please consider becoming a channel member or even leaving a super thanks donation to help keep us going. I promise to answer each and every one I receive. Thank you for watching, my friends, and now, on to the video. My friends, the Walt Disney Company is insane. While some of you may be thinking, Doomcock, a company is a vast and sprawling affair. You can't state a company is insane. The legal fiction that corporations are considered to be people with the right of free speech allows me to state the Walt Disney Company is insane. Why, you ask? Conventional wisdom holds that the definition of insanity is repeatedly doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. By that definition, this company is stark raving mad. Case in point, the Acolyte. Folks, I have data leaked from inside Disney that, if true, makes clear the Acolyte is a spectacular failure. I am still mulling whether or not to release the specifics of what I've been told, treating it always as rumor since I cannot personally look at the data at its source. But regardless, even without that data, common sense makes it very clear that the Acolyte is a failure, because the louder these little piggies squeal in protest about how Star Wars fans are bigots and phobes and Yahtzees, the harder we know they're failing. My friends, I stand here before you today to make the case that in launching a new round of attacks on Star Wars fans in the media, Disney is undeniably confessing they are completely out of step with Star Wars fans, or rather, former Star Wars fans who hate what Disney is doing. In this video, I want to lay out the case that the Acolyte is a devastating failure by analyzing these attacks on fans in articles like these on Collider and Screen Rant, strip away the bullshit lies in these articles, and get to the core confession contained within them. Disney has failed. They've driven off the majority of the Star Wars fan base, they have splintered it irreparably, and they tacitly confess to being the worst kind of company. A company that has lost its customers and smashed their own corporate reputation to rubble. Folks, Disney shills echo the narratives their corporate benefactors want them to echo. When Disney is under attack, when Disney is failing, which is most of the time these days, it's always the same old story. Miraculously, articles appear in the mainstream media blaming the fans for being too toxic to receive the blessings that Disney is bestowing upon them. Pearls before swine. That's what these sad little articles proclaim loudly, and yet what becomes clear when you look at these articles is, if there are any swine involved here, it's Disney and their shills, and you can hear them squealing in pain and denial between every line of these laughable articles. For example, an article on Collider proudly proclaims Star Wars' biggest problem is the fans. In this laughable, naked confession of Disney's failure, an indictment of Disney Star Wars disguised as an attack on fans, these clowns write, quote, "The internet has never made it easy for people to speak their minds." Right away, this article reveals itself to be incoherent and signals to readers beware, here there be lies. If anything, the internet has made it far easier for everyone to speak their minds. That's undeniable. The problem here lies solely with propagandists like Disney and their mainstream media shills who don't like what they hear when fans speak their minds. Fortunately for us, simple logic exposes all of these lies to anyone with half a brain to see them. Quote, "For decades, viewers have been relentlessly attacking Star Wars performers and creators with the renewed push against TV shows like The Acolyte, demonstrating the venom with which a particular set of audience members scrutinize everyone's favorite galaxy. The vitriol of these persistent voices has subsequently spread throughout the internet, making it feel impossible to say anything positive about Star Wars without turning every discussion into a heated debate," unquote. So here they admit that the fan base has been fractured and splintered. Every discussion about Star Wars turns into a heated debate? No shit! Hilariously, these idiots admit the truth. Fans are dissatisfied with Star Wars. Now, they want to blame the fans for it, but they screw up here and admit Disney is not aligned with fans when it comes to Star Wars, regardless of the reason. Star Wars is not succeeding with fans. That's the elephant sitting around the article of this room, which is a tacit confession that Disney has lost the fan base, and they hate that this fact is so readily apparent because of free speech on the internet. See, here's the thing. Woke morons can't stand anyone expressing an opinion they don't like. To these lockstep, pathetic little clones, legitimate criticism of a product by customers can never be authentic. It always has to be toxic. What Disney hates about freedom of expression and the internet is it becomes very clear when customers are dissatisfied with a product. Free speech is inconvenient that way. That's the bottom line. Funny how Disney never admits their products stink. Nope, it's always review bombing, always just a few trolls who are the problem. Never mind that toy sales are in the toilet, that Star Wars doesn't dare release a feature film because then their failure will be nakedly apparent in the box office results. What follows is meant to be an attack on Star Wars fans, but sadly for Disney and Collider, it reveals the problem is Disney and has been all along. Quote, as the bigoted campaigns against Obi-Wan Kenobi's Moses Ingram and the Acolyte prove, Star Wars online hate isn't going away anytime soon. Therefore, it's up to Star Wars creatives to boldly navigate the turbulent waters of the beloved franchise's fandom. Boldly navigate the turbulent waters of the fandom, eh? In other words, they're not going to try and fix Star Wars. They're going to try to move ahead and ignore the customer complaints. Quote, in a recent interview with the New York Times, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy herself acknowledged that women in Star Wars are often subject to audience attacks because of the franchise's vocal male fan base, as well as espousing her belief that storytelling needs to be representative of all people. This sentiment echoes the similar views of both Headland and director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, who is set to helm Star Wars' upcoming solo Rey film. In an interview with Variety, Chinoy expressed her appreciation for the fans' passionate fan base, but she also acknowledged it's best for her to drown out those voices in order to tell her stories, unquote.
So their solution is to drown out the voices of the franchise's passionate fan base. That's how they're going to solve the problem. Their customers don't like their product, so they're going to make more of the same product. Oh, that's brilliant. Star Wars' biggest problem is the fans? That's like saying the biggest problem in a gas leak explosion is that the gas company's customers were flammable. What they should be saying is, Star Wars' biggest problem is it no longer appeals to fans.
Madness, Harvey Cthulhu. Sheer madness. Especially their solution to fans hating Disney Star Wars is to silence, discredit, and ignore their own fan base. In this recent Screen Rant article titled, "The Acolyte Showrunner Speaks Out on the Star Wars Show's Review Bombing," they state, quote, Headland raises a point that perfectly summarizes what's now happening with Star Wars in reviews. Does anybody take that seriously anymore? She's absolutely right about the fact that, especially within the Star Wars fandom, audience scores and reviews are no longer as reliable as they perhaps once were. It's become more and more of a recent and habitual thing for Star Wars projects to be bombarded with an onslaught of bad reviews for no good reason, which attempts to drown out both the praise and the valid criticism, unquote. You see? A majority of your customers hate your product? Don't change the product. Ignore the criticism. Bully your customers into silence. See, to these shills, the only valid criticism is the praise. Either that or minor quibbles about costumes or effects here and there, mere stumbles in the required lockstep march of unanimous praise required by these wimpy snowflake pieces of shit. When something is great, when something is a huge success, there's just no denying that success. You can see evidence of it everywhere. Lines around the block for a movie, toys filling shelves at Walmart and Target, delighted reviews all over the internet. But even more to the point, you'd see evidence of this runaway success from Disney itself. Disney could certainly release their internal ratings data if the Acolyte was a success, but instead of doing that, Acolyte ratings data slips out higgledy-piggledy from various sources in a trickle, and that trickle always disputes their claims that the show is a triumph for Star Wars. Look at what happened when Disney tried to brag about the debut of the Acolyte. They stated that the first 2 episodes got 4.8 million views, the biggest debut on Disney Plus, they said. And yet, when you analyze the numbers as I did in a recent video, that boast proves what a failure Disney Plus really is. Given their boast that Disney Plus has 153.6 million subscribers, out of 153.6 million subscribers, only 4.8 watched the big Acolyte premiere. And that number is actually split between the 2 episodes, so that means roughly 2.4 million viewers watched each, averaged out between them. What percentage of 153 million is 2.4 million? 1.5686% of Disney Plus viewers bothered to watch the big 2-episode premiere. And Disney Plus is so lame, they bragged about it. They boasted about 1.5686% of their subscriber base watching a Star Wars series premiere. See, this is why Disney doesn't dare publicly release their ratings, folks. Disney is a publicly traded company with SEC regulations and requirements, and so they cannot simply lie about the ratings data. They can fudge and publicly proclaim, hey, the Acolyte is a great success, without defining metrically and legally what constitutes a success. Success comes in many nebulous, subjective, and ill-defined forms, so they can risk saying shit like that, but they can't risk outright lying with hard ratings data, and so they keep quiet. That said, we are far from helpless here, because by their deeds shall ye know them, my friends. They're squealing like stuck pigs about how Star Wars fans are bigoted, sexist scum, and they wouldn't be doing that unless the fans were rejecting their shoddy, disgusting, eroticized, lobotomized, twisted version of Star Wars. Which is no surprise, because Disney itself is a shoddy, disgusting, eroticized, lobotomized, twisted version of the American dream. A version that believes a company can succeed by alienating their customers. American businesses used to say the customer is always right. At Disney, the customer is always wrong. And that's why Disney is failing and has most likely damaged themselves beyond any hope of repair. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.